How are we expecting our new lot of engineers to be coming through if they don't know enough about engineering, if they don't understand the industry itself? If you ask students in a school, what shops do you have local to you? They'll be able to tell you there's a hairdresser, there's a Tesco local, there's a fish and chip shop. But if you ask them what manufacturers there are local to them, they won't have a clue. So by going in and telling them about this manufacturer is actually just a mile from your home, these are the amazing things they do, it brings it to life for them. Treat your future employees the same way that you would treat a potential customer. Think about what attracts them. Think about what's going to draw them in. Think about their pain points and address those issues. This talent pipeline isn't going to be ad hoc students. These are going to be students you have nurtured. You've got to know over the years, you understand them, and you know that they are right for your business.
Made to Grow, the podcast for SME manufacturers, brought to you by Flowlens, the simple, affordable MRP system. Over 10 episodes, we've got a host of experienced manufacturers, industry thought leaders, and subject matter experts sharing their personal stories and professional insights to help you on your manufacturing success story. So, stay tuned and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts for a new episode every fortnight. This week, I'm talking about one of the most pressing issues facing the manufacturing industry in the UK, Ireland and beyond, recruitment. I sit down with Angela Lawler, MD of Marvellous Manufacturing, a company that helps manufacturers of all sizes tap into the next generation of talent through building relationships with schools, colleges and universities. So let's jump right in. Good morning, Angela, and welcome to Made to Grow, the Flowlens podcast for SME manufacturers. And it's great to have you as a guest on the podcast.
Thanks, Rich. Nice to be here.
So you spend a lot of time helping manufacturers figure out their strategy for engaging with the next generation of employees and inspiring that next generation. Could you give us a wee bit more background about how you got into that and what inspired you to do that?
Yes, of course. So before we went into lockdown in 2020, I was actually a contractor for Jaguar Land Rover. I set up an asset reuse scheme for them. So when a production line came to the end of its life, I would go down onto that production line and asset tag, catalogue and photograph every piece of kit that we got to see where we could use it, not just in new production lines, but other areas of the business as well. And I absolutely loved my job. Happiest times are crawling around robot cells, try not to lose my hard hat on a gripper, try not to slip on the rivets that they throw back. Absolutely loved it. But I would be the only woman down there. All the rest would be male, mid sort of 40s male line builders and engineers. And I just think, why haven't we got more young people down here? Why haven't we got more women down here? This is great. You can have a job where you can get your hands dirty and still, it doesn't mean that I'm trying to find the right words, but you can go and get your hands dirty and it be an enjoyable job. And I think a lot of people are frightened of that these days. They're frightened of getting their hands dirty. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It can be great for. So I think, I think this is sort of where my passion started, really. It was that question that kept going through my mind. Why haven't we got more women doing this? Why haven't we got more young people doing this?
I know I'm sort of the same. I spend a lot of time, obviously, at a desk. But one of the reasons that we built Flowlens was because we got to spend so much time with really interesting manufacturers and seeing how it's made and working with people that are very inspiring and very innovative. So I think there's a real opportunity for UK PLC to demonstrate how cool and how inspiring our Indigenous manufacturing can be. We've got a very big skills shortage. If there's a skills gap, there's the skills of the future that people maybe are still getting a handle on. Some of it's to do with automation, robotics. Some of it's maybe the basic stuff that we handle with business processes. Then you've got AI staring us in the face and how that's going to impact things. And, society probably has a lot of questions to ask about what is meaningful work and what should be automated. But as it stands, we are, speaking to manufacturers every day who just cannot get people, and they can't get the people who have the skills, and they're almost afraid of investing the time to train people up because it's such a volatile market.
Yeah, and I think, again, we've got several issues really in that, we have got automation and AI coming through. We've got a lot of digitalisation. And for me, a lot of manufacturers, they're probably in their 50s. They probably struggle to keep up with technology because it is moving incredibly fast. And this is where we need to bring in the younger generation. The young kids, they know all about this stuff. They're using it all the time. They're exploring it, investigating it. So they are great to bring into the business because it will be familiar to them. And they are the ones that we really will be able to help manufacturers to move forward, continue to push their business forward, and be competitive in the market because they are embracing the new technologies that are coming through.
So your business, Marvelous Manufacturing, really works to connect employers and young people with that message. For a manufacturer, like, why is that an effective use of their time and an effective approach?
Well, I've got quite a few connections who are recruiters in the manufacturing and engineering industry. They are really struggling. They just can't find the candidates. The candidates aren't out there. And manufacturing and engineering isn't spoken about in schools. Careers leaders don't know about it. They don't know enough to advise their students. I talk to careers leaders and they will say to me, oh, we've got 2 or 3 people within the school who want to be engineers. And I say, okay, what type of engineering are they interested in? And they go, we don't know. And they don't know. And we don't know enough to advise them.
Mm-hmm.
And so how are we expecting our new talent to come through? How are we expecting our new lot of engineers to be coming through if they don't know enough about engineering, if they don't understand the industry itself? Mm-hmm. And this is why it's so important. I know what I know about manufacturing and engineering, most of which is through experience of it. I'm not an engineer. I've never been trained as an engineer, but I can tell you everything about the robots, well timers, sensors, and everything that I used to deal with at Jaguar Land Rover. So I can go to schools and I can talk to the students about manufacturing and engineering, but my knowledge is limited. And we've got so many different types of manufacturers. We've got food, pharmaceutical, wood manufacturers, mechanical engineering. We've got all sorts of manufacturers. And they're the ones really that need to be going into schools and educating the students and the careers leaders as well about the wealth of careers that there are available out there.
And how do you facilitate that then for manufacturers?
So a lot of manufacturers will say to me, well, there's several things. We haven't got time. We don't know where to start. We'd like to go in, but we're really not sure where to start. So I tend to work with them. So I've got three offerings. One is for those who want to go and engage themselves, but just need that little bit of information to get them going. So I'll just work with them, point them in the right direction, tell them the sort of things they should be looking at, and the things that the messaging that they should be doing. The second one is for manufacturers who want to do the same, but haven't got time to write the content to talk about in the classrooms. So I will do that for them. I will write the content. And then the third offering is for manufacturers who haven't actually got time to go and do the schools engagement. I will actually go in and engage on their behalf. So I go into local schools and I will say, I'm here on behalf of XYZ Manufacturing. This is what we make. This is what we do. This is how you can get involved, the sort of jobs that are available. So, I actually talk about them personally as a business. Because if you ask students in a school, what shops do you have local to you? They'll be able to tell you there's a hairdresser, there's a Tesco local, there's a fish and chip shop. But if you ask them what manufacturers there are local to them, They won't have a clue. So by going in and telling them about this manufacturer is actually just a mile from your home, these are the amazing things they do, it brings it to life for them.
And do you engage with the careers leaders as well? Because I think, like, historically in my experience, the teaching community has an important job to do, but it lives in its own world, so it understandably doesn't get out, and it doesn't have the kind of experience that we would have of different types of factories and manufacturing. So it's how you actually connect that reality as well, so they can continue to impart that to the future students.
That's right, exactly. And I do feel quite sorry for careers leaders, because we do expect them to know everything about every job, and they can't. They can't have that much knowledge. And if we're really going to give our students an opportunity to make an informed decision about their future, that has to be brought to life for them. So we can't expect to dump all this information onto careers leaders and for them to have the time to digest it and to present it to the students. So yes, I do engage with the careers leaders. They're always incredibly grateful for businesses coming into the schools and talking to the students, because they know that it gives the students far more information and a far better option when they're looking at their careers options. So yeah. And again, I often say to manufacturers, open your doors for a day, bring the schools into your factories, let them have a wander around, let them see what you do. Careers leaders love this, because again, it gives them as well the opportunity to go and see what goes on in the manufacturers, because you can't really know what happens unless you physically see it. And for a lot of students, I talk to students and I say to them, think about, are you academic or are you creative? And those with the academic brain are quite good at picturing things from written word. But those who are creative, they need to actually see something to see how it works. I'm a creative person, So for me to actually go and see how something works, that makes my brain tick, And I think it's always good if manufacturers can open their doors and give careers leaders and the students an opportunity to go and see it for real.
And what sort of results have you seen so far with that kind of engagement?
It's been really interesting, actually. I've seen some students have a real light bulb moment. I talked to a group of young girls, 15-year-old girls, a couple of months ago. And I said to them, have you thought of a career in manufacturing? And immediately they went, oh, no. And I said, well, okay, so think about the hair straighteners that you use. Is there a feature on there that you think would be good, or is it missing? What about the grip of the handle? Do you think you could design that better so that you're not burning your face or dropping it? Think about your lipstick and the holder that your lipstick comes in. And all of a sudden it was like this light bulb moment, and they just went, we never even thought about that.
Brilliant. Yeah, they just assume these things come from a factory in China or something like that, but actually we've the opportunity to influence the usability of those products.
Absolutely. And this is why when I talk to manufacturers and I say to them, you need to make it relatable, because these students, they're 14, 15, 16 years old. When you talk about your business, it may seem, and when you talk to customers about it, it may seem natural for you, and you know what you're talking about. But to a lot of the youngsters, it's gobbledygook. I've listened to engineers talk before now, and I thought, I haven't got a clue what they're talking about, So by making it relatable to the students, by making them understand how it affects their daily lives or the things that they use in their lives, then they become more interested.
The Made to Grow podcast is brought to you by Flowlens, the simple, affordable MRP system specifically designed for SME device, equipment and machinery manufacturers. Our top-rated cloud-based software can help you cut down on wasted materials, time and money, and eliminate the chaos of running your manufacturing with spreadsheets and hope. Our customers have reported savings of over a day per week per person in their business by cutting out needless admin, duplication of work and countless mistakes. Plus, lead times are shortened by up to 75%. And after hundreds of successful implementations, we've got the blueprint for manufacturing success nailed down. Head over to flowlens.com for a quick video tour of the software and to hear from more manufacturers like you who have transformed their businesses with Flowlens. Now, back to the interview. Do you think manufacturers can do more with kind of their social media content and things like that to inspire and connect with younger people?
Yeah, I think it's not just their social media content as well. Most manufacturers will have a website, and that is aimed at bringing business in. Some of them will have a careers page. But if you look on those careers pages, they are boring. There's very little information on there. The language that's used isn't very good, And I think, so not just social media, but look at your own website as well. Think about mapping out some of the career pathways of people who already work for you, because probably a lot of those started off as apprentices and may now be directors in the business, so that students can look and think, oh, okay, I could be a director in years to come, if I followed that pathway. So that's a good way of attracting young people. As I say, think about your language that you use. Think about doing your careers page so that it's really exciting and it really draws young people in. And then obviously you've got your social media, and I say to manufacturers, treat your future employees the same way that you would treat a potential customer. Think about what attracts them. Think about what's going to draw them in. Think about their pain points and address those issues, and use your social media. Use apprentices that you have in the business at the moment. Get them to take videos and put on TikTok. Obviously, taking into account any NDAs you've got with your clients, because we wouldn't want that to happen. But yeah, get your apprentices putting videos on TikTok. It's a great way of getting the kids interested.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, that's what you have to go where the people go, as they say. So, that's where you need to put that content. And I think, get resources like, that career pathway concept, a recruitment sort of style video that talks about that and talks about a person's journey is actually a great resource that you can also feed into the schools, into the career leaders that they can share.
Absolutely.
Because I think, I have a couple of boys who are not, they're just sort of post-primary, just about, so they're still kind of more interested in gaming and football and whatnot than their career. But it won't be too long before we're starting to think about serious financial decisions about, university and, the investment that's going to take. And obviously there's different pathways now, particularly with apprenticeships across all industries. But, do you help the schools actually bring that kind of decision making to life a bit more?
When I go and talk to the students, I primarily talk about apprenticeships, because I think they're a great way, and I say to the kids, it's a great way to earn and learn. And there are so many different levels of apprenticeship, right up to degree apprenticeship now. So you can still get your degree, but you just don't need to have that huge debt when you come out at the end,
Yeah.
So there's some really good options now. And I think it's beginning to be recognised that schools have spent too long pushing students down the university route, and that it's not suitable for everyone. Again, when I spoke earlier about, are you creative? Are you academic? For those who are academic, yeah, definitely. But for those who are creative, they're much better off doing an apprenticeship, because it gives them that hands-on experience for learning. So for me, yes, definitely. I think we need to overhaul the apprenticeship system. I think it's very badly broken, but that's another conversation. But certainly, I'm a great advocate for apprenticeships, and whatever I can do to help students in that way, I certainly do.
For the sort of smaller manufacturer, are apprenticeships a double-edged sword in terms of the admin and the other responsibilities, I suppose? What can be done, or what can an SME really do to overcome that, so they can get the benefit of it? Because the big guys obviously get have the resources to be able to put programs in place and handle the admin and the drawbacks that there are. What advice would you give to the smaller manufacturer who's keen to engage with apprenticeships?
I think it's very difficult, and I know a lot of the SME manufacturers will use some of the membership associations such as Make UK and Income Training to source their apprentices and to do the training for them, and I know I've spoken to manufacturers who've advertised apprenticeships and just they've either had no response or the response they've had just hasn't been suitable, and they've actually given up on recruiting apprentices. And again, this is why I say that I think the whole system is badly broken, and it really needs rethinking. As you say, there's a lot of admin involved in it, and we have a huge attrition rate as well. I think it's something like 60% at the moment.
That's wild, yeah.
And it's just mad if you've invested time and money into an apprentice, and then 8 months later they decide that they'd rather go and work for McDonald's because they can earn better money now. It is frustrating for SMEs. They haven't got that time and money to then think, okay, we need to start recruiting again. So, I really think that something needs to be done to make that transition much easier. I keep saying I think we need a UCAS for apprenticeships. I really do. And I know UCAS have started putting apprenticeships on their website, but it's really just a touch point. They haven't gone any deeper than that. I think it needs to go a lot deeper.
I suppose it comes back to the discussion. It probably starts with inspiring kids whenever they're thinking about this, that thinking about a career, that's a story about somebody who ditches an apprenticeship after 8 months to go and work in McDonald's because the money's better. That's just sad. That's a failure of vision and opportunity because they haven't seen where the potential lies.
Exactly.
I'm a big fan of letting people learn the hard way sometimes, and maybe that's this emphasis of moving on post school straight into a career isn't maybe the right thing to do either. Perhaps kids need to go and find their own feet for a while and then discover how hard life can be.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rich. And I quite often say that I think it would be great for children to leave school at 16, go into the world of work, and then at 25, then make that decision how they're going to pursue their career, and then look at higher education, because as you say, it gives them an opportunity to understand how money works, how the world of work works, and give them some breathing space to think about what they really want to do. How can you make a decision at 16? You know nothing. You think you know everything, but you know nothing.
Exactly, yeah. Or indeed at 18, you think you know everything then at 2, but yeah. So coming back to the manufacturing guys, if you're sitting here thinking, right, well, you're surrounded by schools, where do you start?
Okay, so you there's a number of things that you really need to think about before you even start engaging. Really, it's what are your plans? Are you looking to take people on within the next 12 months, or is this part of your 5-year growth strategy? If it's part of your 5-year growth strategy, start with year 7s and follow them through their school. Follow their path, have those touch points with them regularly through their school. So that when they come out at the age of 18, they know you guys, they know your business, they want to come and work for you. If you're looking to recruit within the next 12 months, then you're going to aim at, sixth form students who are doing their A-levels. So really, this is one of the first things you need to think of. It's no good going into schools and taking a scattergun approach. You have to think carefully about, right, what am I looking to actually do here? What do I need in the next 12 months? What do I need in the next 5 years? Plan it out properly, think about the type of engagement that you want to do. There's lots of different things, you could do, as I say, like open your doors for a day. You could set a competition for the pupils to work on during the term, and then get them to do a presentation at the end of the term with a box of chocolates as a prize. You can do class and group assemblies. You can do careers days. There are lots of things going on throughout the school year that you can get involved with, but it's actually thinking, right, what's going to bring value to my business, and what do I want to participate in? But I do generally say, make it a 12-month programme. Find out what the careers leaders have got planned for the next 12 months and make sure that you fit in with it. If you do that, a lot of manufacturers will say, well, we don't have time, but a 12-month programme, you're probably looking at, if we take into account an open day at your factory and a competition and everything else, you're probably looking at a total of 17 hours a year, which isn't a huge amount, in that time scale. So there are lots of things to be thinking of before you even get in touch with the schools. Think about how you're going to create content, how it's going to be applicable and relatable to the students. Think about your language that you're using, do all this prep work in advance, then get in touch with the schools and then start your engagement.
And of course, if they don't have capacity, you're available to help.
I certainly am. Yep. Yeah.
How do people find you, Angela?
I've got a website, obviously, Marvellous Manufacturing. I'm on LinkedIn. And I think all my contact details are on the website and on LinkedIn as well.
And we'll include them in the show notes. Look, it's been a really interesting conversation, and a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Angela. I look forward to sharing this and seeing what sort of challenge it puts up to our listeners, because I think there's a lot of opportunity there to engage. And as you say, it really is about a long-term strategy. If you're thinking short-term, maybe it isn't going to work so successfully, but feed it into your long-term strategy, and you'll see those results pay off.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of manufacturers think, well, I'm not getting immediate return on investment. You won't get it straight away, but you've got to think about the future. You've got to think about what your future recruitment costs will be if you don't do the schools engagement. Think about the fact you're going to line up your future talent pipeline, and these aren't going to be this talent pipeline isn't going to be ad hoc students. These are going to be students you have nurtured, you've got to know over the years, you understand them, and you know that they are right for your business. It's a very clever way of bringing in the right employees for your business.
Great synopsis and way to sum it up there to finish things off, Angela. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Rich. Been great talking to you.
Thanks to Angela for taking the time to share her years of experience in this field, which is to say the least daunting for so many of our listeners. As always, there are no fast fixes to problems like the skills shortage that have become progressively worse over the generations. But by investing the time and energy in the next generation, the dividends can be substantial. It was particularly interesting to hear Angela bring attention to the mindset switch required of so many manufacturers in their marketing communications. Potential employees are an important secondary audience that most people ignore. A solid pipeline of talent is as important as a pipeline of orders, as one can't happen without the other. This look to the future would be a fantastic place to finish our 10-episode run, but we actually have a special bonus 11th episode which we can't wait to share with you. So next time, in our final episode of this series, I'll be talking to Gary Sheeter of the Manufacturers Alliance about the qualities of brilliant manufacturing leaders and how peer-to-peer networking can help unlock some of our sector's biggest challenges. In the meantime, it really helps if you can subscribe, rate and review our podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Thanks, until next time.